All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for showing up to the second tour of Yosemite National Park presented by Associated Students of Adventure Outings. My name is Riley Cox, and I'm the Operations Assistant Coordinator for Adventure Outings. Really happy to have everyone in here. I see a lot of old faces from the last tour and some new ones, so I really appreciate it. Two things real quick before we start. If you could mute yourself, that would be really awesome, so I don't have to scroll through and mute anyone with any background noise while this tour is happening. And then if everyone can put their screen in full screen mode so that when I show photos or videos, it won't be cut off. I think we had that issue last tour, and I think it was because of people not being in full screen mode. So hopefully if you do that, it will fix the problem. All right. So we are right here in California, and I wanted to throw Chico up here just so people who maybe aren't familiar with this area can see how close Yosemite is to Chico and Chico State. It's about a 4-hour drive to get to Yosemite, so it's easily done in a weekend. Again, I'm also not a park ranger or a scientist or anything like that. Just spend a lot of time in this area and really passionate about the Sierras. And feel free to ask any questions. This tour will jump around a lot more than the last one did because we were going to many more places in the park. So if you are ever confused about where we are, please let us know in the chat, and I can always just zoom out real quick and give and like reorient someone if they're kind of lost on where we are. Okay, so what we see right here, this yellow border that's all shaded, that is the entirety of Yosemite National Park. It's absolutely massive. It's 1,187 square miles. So to give perspective for anyone who's from Chico or been in Chico for a while, Bidwell Park is 5 square miles, 5.5. So this is 1,100, just over 1,100 square miles. It's huge. This red shaded area is Yosemite Valley proper, and it comprises only 1% of the total park. So it's just a tiny, tiny fraction. This blue section right here is Tuolumne Meadows. So Yosemite Valley and Tuolumne Meadows are kind of the two hubs of Yosemite National Park. In these places, this is where a lot of the trailheads are or start from. You'll have lodging and food and stores and whatnot in both, and camping in both areas. So those are the two hubs. A lot of the places we're visiting today, trailheads will start in Tuolumne Meadows to take you to some of these more remote areas that we're going to visit. Lastly, last year in 2019, Yosemite National Park had 4.5 million visitors, but only 50,000 of those visitors were overnight wilderness use. So a lot of these spots that are outside of non-wilderness areas, which is the Valley and Tuolumne Meadows, a fraction of the people visit them. So you're more than likely going to be alone or only have 1 or 2 people with you when you're out in some of these areas. So definitely a lot more remote and less visited. Just going to take off these shaded bits because they get in our way as we go along this tour. All right, so we're going to start in Hedgehechi. If you're a frequent visitor of Yosemite, you might have been here, but it can often be overlooked because you pass the entrance to Hedgehechi before you actually enter the park on the western side. So a lot of people just drive right past it because they're headed to the valley. So we're here at this beautiful location. This trail actually takes you right underneath this crazy waterfall with these huge cliffs. It's pretty fantastic. My guess is you'll be totally soaked if you're standing here for a while. The parking lot is over here on the right-hand side of our screen, and this trail will take you right along this bridge here. Really beautiful. It's a huge lake. It's actually a reservoir, and it used to be a valley. So Hedgehechi is a derivative of an indigenous term, and it stood for the grass. It was the name for the grass that the native population ate here in this valley. So this is a picture of what Hedgehechi used to look like before it was dammed. So mixed feelings about damming such a beautiful area like this. This looks like another little mini Yosemite, these beautiful waterfalls and meandering river. It's kind of a shame that it's no longer here. So it looks like this today. It's kind of a similar viewpoint. So Hedgehechi was first discovered by a European settler in 1850, 1 year before Yosemite Valley was discovered. And he was a mountaineer by the name of Joseph Screech, and he was coming in here, I'm guessing, to explore some new areas to climb and hike around in. Fast forward 21 years later, and John Muir stepped foot in this valley for the first time. So I mention him because he's gonna be brought up a few times on this tour, so we're gonna get a little background history on him. But he first came here 21 years later, and he found it claimed by a sheep herder who would graze his sheep here every summer. So by this time, they had driven out all of the natives, unfortunately. So in 21 years, all the natives were out of this valley, and it was occupied by a sheep herder. So John Muir, who is this fellow, him and one other person named Gifford Pinchot, which is this guy right here, they are considered the fathers of public land because they started basically the National Park System and the Forest Service, the U.S. Forest Service. So John Muir was a preservationist. And what that means is his belief was that you should only do enough industrialization or infrastructure in a wilderness area to accommodate recreation and nothing else. And that eventually is the kind of the motto of national parks. So national parks are preservationists in nature, whereas Gifford Pinchot was a conservationist. And conservationists believe that recreation is super important, but they also believe that the natural land is there for our use. So they are very much in support of logging and mining and damming for hydroelectric power, basically using the natural resources that are given to us. And even though they had very distinct ideologies, these two men were actually really good friends. They had met a long time ago and had many debates and respected each other greatly. In the early 1900s, there was a proposal put to Congress to dam Hedgehechi. And this was because they believed that San Francisco needed a better water supply. And this was right after the fire in 1906, the big earthquake and fire. So San Francisco was hurting for electric power and for water. And these two men became rivals in this debate. And they both went to Congress, pleaded with Congress, pled their case. John Muir did not want to dam Hedgehechi, and Gifford Pinchot did. And so I want to show you guys their arguments. So these are the actual arguments they used in Congress. And so I have a quick poll here. Take a second to read those. And I'm just curious, there is no right answer, but who do you align with most out of these arguments? Do you align more with Gifford or John Muir? That's pretty unanimous. John Muir is the victor here. I guess that's not surprising. What's interesting though is obviously Gifford Pinchot, hey, we got one. Someone out there voted for Gifford. Obviously Gifford won the argument and they ended up damming Hedgehechi. But let let me take this off. So they ended up damming Hedgehechi, but that doesn't mean that John Muir lost the war. So today we use both styles of management, conservationism and preservationism, to manage our public lands. And you'll notice in national parks, most national parks are completely surrounded by national forests. So we have a dual system in the United States, and it seems to be working out pretty well for us. All right, so we'll move on. We're going to jump way into the high country now, almost to the other side of the park. We're going to stop at Vogel Sing. So I'm curious if Becky has been here or not. She mentioned before our tour started that she's visited a lot, so I'm just curious here. Vogel Sing is an absolutely phenomenal place. This is one of my favorite places in the park, and it does get visitors, but it's also kind of a launch point. You can camp here and dive super deep into the backcountry where no one will be, and you'll get to some incredibly remote and obscure places. So I'm going to rotate us so you can get perspective. That blue shaded bit is Tuolumne Meadows, so we're just southeast of Tuolumne Meadows, and it takes about 6.7 miles of consistent uphill hiking to reach this spot. And this spot in particular is pretty interesting because it has a High Sierra camp. So I'll show you a photo here. You can see these white tents in the bottom of this photo, and just like absolutely stunning terrain. We're at 10,130 feet in elevation. So you're right up there in the alpine zone, kind of rugged and remote. In 1916, Stephen Mather, he was the first director of the National Park Service. He also was the one who commissioned the building of the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite Valley, but he commissioned 3 mountain chalets to be built. And they didn't last long, only a couple years. And then in 1923, the National Park Service commissioned 5 more. And those are the current day High Sierra camps. So there are 5 of them in Yosemite National Park, and they create a 51-mile loop. So the really cool thing about this is, if you're not someone who has the knowledge or maybe the fitness to carry a big heavy pack, but you want to come out and see these areas, you can book a night in a High Sierra camp and day hike there with just a light pack with water. At the camp, there'll be beds for you. There's a chef there who makes dinner and breakfast. There are bathrooms and some showers. And you can hike 51 miles over 5 days and stay in each of the High Sierra camps. It's a pretty phenomenal service that the park actually provides. So we have one right here at Vogel Sing. Here's a photo of kind of one of the permanent structures. And the really cool thing about this area is in 2.5 miles, you can hike all the way to this remote lake over here called Lake Emmerich. You can hike up and over this pass into this remote basin, the Simmons Basin. You can hike up to this obscure lake, Hanging Basket Lake. So this is a great place to launch hikes from and get really remote. And we're going to visit Hanging Basket Lake here in just a second. But I want to highlight 2 peaks in particular that you can get to from this spot. And one of them is right here, this peak. This one's called Amelia Earhart Peak. It's 11,900 feet in elevation. And then this peak right here, this is Mount Florence. And this one is massive, 12,560 feet in elevation and very, very remote. I think it's somewhere around 24 miles round trip to get out here in a day, or you're having to camp way out in the back country to get to this. But I want to highlight those two peaks because they are the only two mountains in all of Yosemite National Park named for women. These are two really special peaks. I've been able to climb this one, but I haven't made it out to Mount Florence, unfortunately. It's a little remote. It's kind of hard to get to. But I have photos of them, so you guys can check them out. Here's a beautiful lake up in this region. So this is Amelia Earhart Peak. Beautiful long ridge line, imposing face. It sits right above, it looms above a massive lake called Lake Ireland that you can camp at. And then here's Mount Florence. It's huge, really, really imposing mountain right here. It's beautiful in person. And then here's another lake I mentioned, Lake Emmerich. You can hike up onto this spine right here to this point, and you'll get a beautiful unobstructed view down through the canyon into the Merced River Canyon with the views of the Clark Range. Not a lot of people climb up onto this ridge because it is off trail, but easy, highly recommended. It's stunning. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about right here is this river drainage. So if you come from Tuolumne Meadows, it takes about 6.7 miles to get here, but there's a trail that keeps going all the way into the canyon. And this is the Rafferty Creek drainage. And in my opinion, it is this river canyon, this valley, is one of the best things you can hike in the whole park. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do here. It's a backpacking trip. It goes from Tuolumne Meadows to Yosemite Valley, and it's highly recommended. I just opened up chat. I see Logan asked a question. Do these peaks have trails or cairns? So all of these peaks that you see in front of me are off trail. It's going to take a map and compass navigation to get to them. None of them that I know of have cairns like leading the way. But the beauty of it is it's so open and these features are so distinct that they're pretty easy to find and to follow. Usually it's just a massive mountain looming in your face and you just have to walk towards it. All right, we will keep going. I believe Jenna also linked into chat a link for the High Sierra Camp lodging. And she will also be linking a link that talks about Yosemite wilderness permit. So it'll teach you how to get a wilderness permit to go backpacking out here. So here's Hanging Basket Lake. It's this absolutely beautiful lake, green, crystal clear water. So this lake is at 10,700 feet in elevation. And I'd be really surprised if anyone has ever been here at this lake. This lake is about a mile off trail, halfway up a mountain. It's called a tarn, which is a mountain or steep mountain lake. And it's all snow melt fed, rain and snow melt fed. You have to scramble up through big boulders just to get here. So I did a trip and I backpacked along this whole ridge line off trail and I was able to look down on this lake. So that's where this photo is from. I got to look down on it. Really cool, beautiful views all throughout this area. 100% guarantee that no one will be out here if you come to this lake. It's that remote and off trail. All right. We're gonna jump now to somewhere that people might have been, but it's worth discussing in this tour. So we're here at May Lake, and May Lake was named for Lucy Mayada Brown, and she was the girlfriend of Hoffman. So Hoffman was a topographer who came in the Whitney survey in 1863. He was a part of that original survey, and he was the chief topographer on that, in that crew. And so he was just dating this woman at the time, but he named a lake after her, May Lake. And then shortly thereafter, they got married. So I like to think of Hoffman as having some serious game right there. I don't think you can beat that, naming a lake after a woman, after your girlfriend. But pretty smooth moves by Hoffman there. May Lake is only 1.1 miles from the road. So you can see, hopefully, the road weaving through here. This is Highway 120. It'll take you all the way through the park to the east side where like Lee Vining is. And so May Lake can be really popular because it is only 1.1 miles and because it is also the site of another High Sierra camp. So this is number 2 of 5. Here's a picture. May Lake is stunning. This place is absolutely gorgeous. Mount Hoffman just looms above you, and it is also another really great launch point to go deeper into the park and see some more obscure areas. If you are going to Yosemite just for a weekend and you don't know what to do, come to May Lake. You won't be disappointed. From May Lake, it is then only 2 miles to summit the top of Mount Hoffman. So from the road, from your car, you can go up to the top of Mount Hoffman and back in only about 7 miles. So it's pretty reasonable. And we are going to do just that. So first I want to show you guys, as you go up to climb Mount Hoffman, you end up in this meadow. Like halfway up, there's a bench, a spot where the mountain levels out, and you're in this just beautiful meadow right here. It continues to open up just through these trees. You can see the Mount Hoffman. These are called the turrets. They're the Mount Hoffman turrets, probably because they're castle-like. And I love this view because you see May Lake, but then you also get to see Mount Conness, a massive mountain that you can see from a lot of points in the park, looming back there. But then we also start to see for the first time a change in the flora, the plant life. So we're right around 9,500 feet here, and we start to hit the alpine, subalpine to alpine zone, and you start to see different types of trees and plants. And so you start to see this tree right here, which is the mountain hemlock. This is my favorite tree because of this droopy top. I don't know why I like the droopy top of that tree, but I do. It reminds me of like the Who from Dr. Seuss or something like that. But it's my favorite tree. And then in this meadow and many other meadows, pretty much all over the park, you get hit with phenomenal wildflowers. So I'm going to show a couple right now. So this is a wild lupine. You'll see fields of this. It's absolutely gorgeous. Before I started working in Yosemite, I didn't really realize how much of a lover of wildflowers I was. And then I found myself taking out like wildflower identification books on all of my trips and taking photos of all of them and always searching for them. It was like the coolest part of my trips. I love finding wildflowers. You see these, you see crazy looking ones like this. This is a type of orchid called a lady slipper. And then you get crazy lilies. So this is called a tiger lily or a leopard lily. Absolutely beautiful wildflowers. I believe Jenna has a link that she can share with you all about the best times to visit the park to see wildflowers. It's definitely a game you have to play because there is a lot of snow in this region, so you have to wait until the snow melts, but then not wait too long. All right, so if you continue through this meadow, it'll wrap around and you'll be on the summit trail to Mount Hoffman. So we're gonna go up to the top of Mount Hoffman. I want to highlight Mount Hoffman because while May Lake might be visited pretty often, people don't climb Mount Hoffman nearly as much. And so to me, this is a hidden gem because of the view up here and the fact that you're likely not to see as many people up here. So Mount Hoffman, we're at 10,800 feet in elevation right here, and we are actually in the geographical center of the park. This is the dead center of Yosemite National Park. It was first climbed by John Muir in 1869. It wasn't the first ascent, but John Muir climbed it for the first time in 1869. And he said that this view up here was his favorite view in the whole park. So I just want to take a second, and I want you all to think about what makes a view special for you. This is a very subjective question, but just take a moment and think about what makes a view the best for you. I had this conversation a lot with some of my friends as we were summiting some peaks off in the distance, and we were talking about this statement John Muir made. Like, well, why was Hoffman his favorite view? And so if anyone wants, please share in the chat what makes a view special for you. Just kind of fun to see all of the different things people might say. For me, it is the kind of like how crazy rock looks. And I think that's the same as John Muir. From this vantage point, you get a view of Mount Conness. You get a view of Cathedral Peak, the crazy Echo Peaks. There's 9 of them all jumbled in a mass right there. You get a view of Mathis Crest, which is a mile-long spine of granite that juts out. And you also get views of Clouds Rest and of Half Dome from up here. You can see so much, and all of those views are spectacular. Whereas if you were at one of those other points, Mount Hoffman itself is not necessarily the most aesthetic or beautiful looking mountain, but it's worth climbing for the views it gives you. So here's the imposing north face and a view of it from a different angle. So we are right here up on the top. Let's just checking some of those comments in chat. Okay, now I'm going to take you guys to a true hidden gem. Not many people have been here, I can guarantee you. It is pretty far off trail. I want to stress that you should not come to this location unless you are competent in navigational skills, off-trail travel, traveling across steep granite, and you are competent in getting up and out of basins that are steep. This is not somewhere you should just go on a whim without proper planning and preparation. So I kept hearing my friends, my guiding friends, talk about this Quartz Cave. And one day I finally decided to go find it. And May Lake is right here for some reference, and here's Hoffman. And this is not the actual location of the cave, but it is within this basin right here. And so it took me quite a while. You have to travel across all these open granite fields and drop down into the steep basin and navigate through some lakes that are all covered up by ice right now. But then I finally found it. So here's the entrance to the cave. And it kind of just looks like normal rock, I suppose, from this photo. Here's looking into it. It's about 5 feet tall. And some of it's polished from water. I think this was carved out by water. But if you look close, the entirety of this cave and these walls, they all look like this. It's all quartz. The entire thing is quartz. It's a literal quartz cave. It's one of the coolest things that I've ever found out in the park, completely off trail. It's pretty amazing what you can find if you go explore. And this is true even for our local park, Upper Park. So I would highly encourage anyone to take the time, go into Upper Park, do some exploring off trail, and you'll be pretty amazed at what you can find that isn't on the map or that people don't really talk about. I personally have a few hidden gems in the park that no one that I know of goes to. I've never heard anyone else talk about these spots, so definitely worth exploring. Okay, I'm just gonna check chat real quick, okay? All right, so we've talked about mountains and lakes for a bit now. We're gonna take a little break from that. We're gonna jump over to a canyon. So this is the Lost Valley. For reference, here's Half Dome. Here is that subdome. So if you were at the previous tour, we did an up close view of this area and the trail that took us there. So if you keep coming this way, you'll enter the Lost Valley, which is this deep, gorged out river canyon with all of these huge walls. And the river that runs through here, you can see the trail zigzagging down. This river is gnarly. We're talking class 4, class 5 whitewater, waterfalls. It's really powerful and pretty vicious, and the trail goes right by the whole thing. It's a super beautiful trail. Because Half Dome is right here, most hikers stop. They stop hiking in this area because they've seen the waterfalls or they're going to Half Dome. So I recommend to keep going because this is like a filter. A lot of people don't come into the Lost Valley right here. We're currently above the Lost Valley, so I wanted to show you guys a map real quick. This is Yosemite Valley right here. And what I've highlighted is, in my opinion, a stellar backpacking route. It's a beginner's backpacking route. It's 21 miles long for anyone looking to get into it and they want to explore some of these really cool spots. The viewpoint that we landed on Google Earth is right here at this purple tent above the Lost Valley. It is from the valley, it's 9 miles to get here. You can do a really big day hike, but I would recommend doing the full loop at 21 miles. Okay. Sorry about that. Click the wrong button. Now I got to reorient. Okay, so I'm going to rotate and I want to highlight this huge section of burn. Unfortunately, this is California. It burns. I know it's kind of a touchy subject right now, but it's just a fact of life here in California, unfortunately. This big burn, it happened here and inside of the Lost Valley. And it's a meadow fire of 2014. So I just want to talk briefly about healthy fires and unhealthy fires. And so to put it simply, a healthy fire will burn out the underbrush and a little bit of the tree, but it won't jump into the crown or the main part where all the leaves are of the tree. An unhealthy fire is going to completely torch and decimate that whole tree. So unfortunately, this one was an unhealthy fire. It completely obliterated this whole section. And that was 6 years ago. But now, one of the things I want to highlight is the aftermath and the beauty that it can bring. So real quick, here's a view of on top of the Lost Valley at sunset. It's really amazing. This is actually Half Dome. This is during the day. This is one of the best campsites I've ever had. It was off trail at this little tiny lake up here on a dome. No one was here. You can see the burn that I was referring to down here and up. And so 6 years later, it was 5 years. This photo was taken in 2019. 5 years later, this is what it looks like now. So you can see that these trees were decimated, completely obliterated. But look at all of this new growth. And for me, it is really, really beautiful and surreal, the juxtaposition between the black stalks and all of this beautiful new undergrowth. This stuff was 5 feet tall. A lot of ferns as well. It was some of my favorite hiking, to be honest, hiking through here, just because of that juxtaposition. And you get these beautiful wildflowers, and this is called fireweed. And it's called fireweed because it actually thrives in recently burned areas. It'll be the first plant that pops up after a burn. And it's beautiful. Here's another photo of these beautiful purple flowers. There's some sort of like mountain thistle. And you can see all the ferns in the background, and here's us hiking through that. So I bring this up just to say that, you know, we've been struggling a lot with wildfires, but the earth does regenerate. It does get beautiful again. And for me, it's evident in these photos. Okay, so lastly, before we move on, I'm going to jump back to this river canyon here. Last tour, I talked about climbing. This tour, I want to highlight another extreme sport that occurs in the park. With permission, you need permits for this, and that's whitewater kayaking. So we're going to watch a little video of people actually kayaking this section of the Merced Canyon. These guys are absolutely insane. Like I totally styled it, barrel rolled out of that last one. But as you can see, these guys are some of the best kayakers in the world. They've kayaked all over the world. This river is not for the amateur kayaker by any means. But I think it does a really good job highlighting the kind of the power and how cool this river canyon is that you can hike through if you want to come up here. It also showed some of that burn that I was talking about in that video there at the end. Yeah, it's pretty epic, Haley. To my knowledge, they are the first two people ever to kayak this section. It was illegal until they got permission and got permits for it. They had to hike 17 miles with their kayaks just to get to the start of this river. It's pretty crazy. They were hiking with like 150 pounds or something like that. All right, let's move on. We're going to go to the last basin, the last mountain basin. And first, we're going to stop in a meadow on the way up to this basin that I like to call the meadow from nowhere. because you're hiking through trees, kind of slogging uphill, and then you just bust out into this beautiful open meadow. And I think this illustrates a quote from John Muir, and he said, "The mighty Sierra, miles in height and so gloriously colored and so radiant, it seemed not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like the wall of some celestial city, making a wall of light ineffably fine. Then it seemed to me that the Sierra should be called not the Nevada or Snowy Range, but the Range of Light." So that has been taken on by a lot of people. A lot of people call this place the Range of Light because of that. And you can see these light beams coming down in the distance across the Cathedral Range, a very fitting name for those mountains in the distance. I also wanted to highlight at this spot, if I turn around, we're about to come up and over this mountain right here. That's our next destination, so this is on the way. But wanted to highlight this flower, and this is my personal favorite wildflower that you can see in the park. And for those that know me, I'm quite a big sci-fi fantasy guy, and to me, this flower looks like some crazy spaceship, some alien spaceship or something. And this is called the Crimson Columbine. So you can see this all over. It's really spectacular. And then in the last tour, I had people guess a flower, and that flower was called the Indian Paintbrush. And so I want to highlight something really unique about this area. This is the only area that I have ever seen this flower, and it's called the subalpine paintbrush. And it looks like this. This flower is hot pink, like literal highlighter hot pink. It blew my mind the first time I saw it. I had to drop my pack, stop the whole group. We had to take photos of it. I had to look it up in my book because I had never seen this flower before. And it's this color, it's this purple hot pink color, and you can actually see all these little hairs on it. Because it's so high in elevation, this is probably 9,000, 9,500 feet up. And as you get higher in elevation, the terrain gets much more harsh, and it's harder for these plants to survive. So they get darker in color to help with the sunlight, and they get hairier, and that helps stabilize them in the wind. So you can see that evident with this version of the paintbrush right here. It's crazy flower. All right, so let's go take a look up here. This is the Kness Basin. One of the best places you could ever hike to from Tuolumne Meadows. So the Kness Basin is about 6 miles from Tuolumne Meadows to this first lake. Mount Kness is this big mountain right here. It's 12,590 feet. It's the tallest mountain we've seen on this trip. And here's some photos of it. This mountain is quite a sight. It dominates the landscape as you drive in to Tuolumne Meadows. There's not really a mountain like this. This southeast face is extremely imposing. It looks phenomenal. This west ridge that my cursor's on, I believe is a top 50 classic climb in North America. For all the climbers in this tour right now, this west ridge is 1,200 feet of 5-6 to low 5th class climbing. It is the alpine dream for rock climbers. It's absolutely stellar. For anyone who is looking for a harder challenge, you can climb up the actual face at 510C climbing grade. I apologize for anyone who doesn't understand climbing grades, but I'm not going to get into that right now. 510C, the Harding route, it's hard, old Yosemite 510C. I would not recommend it unless you're really good. Here's another view of Mount Kness from Lake Tenaya, or Tenaya Lake. This lake is really, really cool. We're not seeing it on this tour because the road of Highway 120 actually runs right here. You can literally park your car at this lake and have a picnic. It's absolutely stellar. Anywhere up here is really beautiful. And then finally, here's a view of the West Ridge itself. So check this out, all my climbers in this tour. Immaculate rock, beautiful looking climbing for 1,200 feet. This is my friend Matt having a good old time super jealous. I didn't take this photo, but super jealous of him. All right, so you get up here, there are 3 lakes. These lakes are called the Young Lakes. You might find people camping here, but I doubt you'll find people camping at this 3rd lake. And so this lake, this is the hidden gem. This is where we're gonna go visit next. All right, this place is amazing. Crystal clear water. I've been at this lake when it's half frozen. I led a group of youth up here, and those crazy little kids were jumping into this like half frozen lake. I definitely did not get in the water. I don't like cold water, but you have Ragged Peak right here in this imposing ridgeline that runs all the way around. It actually goes all the way to White Mountain, all the way around to Mount Conness, which unfortunately we can't see. It's behind this plug. Super beautiful up here. And I want to take a second to recognize why this lake is named Young Lakes. Why these lakes are named Young Lakes. They're named after this guy, General Samuel Baldwin Young, and he lived a pretty amazing life. Definitely worth having 3 lakes named after him. So he was the acting superintendent of Yosemite National Park in 1896 and for Yellowstone in 1907. So he was basically the head honcho for 2 national parks. He also was a general in the Civil War fighting for the North, and he was wounded on 4 separate occasions in battle. So just an absolute boss, lived a crazy life, and I thought it was worth highlighting. A lot of the places are named after like a senator or like the topographer or something, but this guy to me really, really earned it. So from this first lake, it takes a mile off trail to get up to this lake. And then next we're gonna go visit a lake in this region over here. So it's 3 miles off trail to get into this next lake. If people are here and you want something more remote, go out to Roosevelt Lake out here. I doubt there'll be anyone out there. This is a really cool lake, really long, tucked into this little cirque. You have Sheep Peak on this side and Mount Conness on this side, framing this lake. Really, really beautiful. So let's look at it. Highly recommend anyone to come out here. Beautiful color. This is Sheep Peak that this person is standing in front of. And another really interesting thing about Roosevelt Lake is there used to be fish here, but it has since been gill netted and all the fish have been removed. And that's because Roosevelt Lake is a rehabilitation lake for one of the 2 endangered species that live in Yosemite National Park. One of them is the bighorn sheep, and the other endangered species is the yellow-legged frog. And so the yellow-legged frogs now live in Roosevelt Lake, which is why they gill netted and to keep the fish out. So if you go to Roosevelt Lake, there's a good chance you're going to see an endangered species, which is pretty awesome, I'd say. All right. Do we have any questions? Kind of been just been plugging along here. Nope. Okay. This will be the last big mountainous lake scenery that we get to, and I think I've exhausted that enough anyway. We're going to move to a gem of Yosemite National Park that I don't know how many people actually know about, and this is the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne. So it starts right here at Glen Allen, which is another High Sierra camp. So this is number 3. And Glen Allen is 6 miles from Tuolumne Meadows. So just the start of the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne is 6 miles in. This canyon runs about 25 miles and ends at the Hedgehechi Reservoir. So before that was dammed up, this river just kept going into that canyon and beyond. If you are wanting waterfalls, the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne is the place to go, is the place to backpack. It is filled with waterfalls. So here's a view of an overhead view of the canyon. And then for 25 miles, this is the kind of stuff you're hiking through. Beautiful rocky slab terrain, waterfalls galore. It all looks like this. It's fantastic. Highly prized backpacking permit to come through here, that's for sure. I want to highlight one waterfall in particular, and that is Water Wheel Falls. This is a very unique waterfall. It's a slab fall, so it's more like a slide. It's a water slide, but there are a lot of boulders and imperfections in the granite that cause these big plumes to jut out and arc like big wheels. And I actually have a video of it so you guys can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So those wheels are like 30 to 40 feet tall. They're huge, a lot bigger than it looks in that video. This is a stellar waterfall. It's about 1.5 miles in the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne. Okay, we are just about done, but I want to give you guys a special treat. I want to show you one hidden spot in Yosemite Valley proper that I'd be really curious to know if Becky has ever been here. But this place is not advertised by the park. You have to know someone who's been here, or you have to have like done your own research and read about it. And that place is called Sierra Point. But real quick, before we talk and we go to Sierra Point, I want to talk about why it's no longer advertised. And that's because of Rockfall. In 1980, there was an earthquake in Mammoth, and it caused a bunch of rockfall to occur right here. And the rockfall completely crushed and obliterated the trail, and they never rebuilt it. So this trail has been closed since the 80s. Today, you have to hike back up through that like deposition zone, all of those jumbled rocks, to get to about right here. And right here, the trail reemerges because it was above the rockfall, and you can follow that the rest of the way to the point. But rockfall occurs all the time in the valley and in Yosemite. So it's caused by earthquakes, it's caused by a freeze thaw. So water will get into cracks in the rock and freeze and expand. And then when it melts, it leaves that crack widened, and over time that will slough off a bunch of rock. So I have a really cool photo here. And this is all of the recorded rockfall in Yosemite Valley from 1872 to 2011. I think it's 139 years of rockfall right here. So it happens a lot. And the bigger the circle, the more powerful the rockfall is. So I want you guys to focus right here next to Glacier Point. There's this big black one with the red and green dot in the center. That rockfall occurred in 1996. And that was right here. The piece of rock that fell was 80,000 tons. And it hit the ground, and the sonic boom, the blast wave from the rock hitting the ground, produced 174 mile per hour winds. and it completely destroyed this whole section of tree right here. It just leveled them. And here's an actual photo of that devastation. My best guess is that is about 200 feet in off the rock, or away from the rock, just completely leveling all of those trees. It's crazy how powerful that rockfall was. So again, rockfall also occurred here and crushed the trail, but you can still climb up through it and get to Sierra Point. So let's go to Sierra Point. It is a hidden spot in the valley. It's kind of a local spot. And it is the only spot in Yosemite Valley, and I think the entire park, where you can see 4 waterfalls at the same time. So you have Vernal Fall and Nevada Falls. I talked about those on my last tour with the mist trail running beneath us. You have a Lillooet Fall in this canyon. And then you have Yosemite Falls right here. So 4 waterfalls, all from one vantage point. It's really spectacular. Surrounded in surrounded by these huge walls, panorama point in these walls. It's phenomenal. I got to hike up to this point my last summer here. Super worth it. It takes about 40 minutes to get up here. And yeah, that's about all I got for you all. If anyone has any questions, feel free. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending and sticking around, coming to the second one. I'm stoked to see how many people we had here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Becky, I hope you have a new spot to visit the next time you go to Yosemite. Yeah, I'll open it up for anyone who has any questions.
Yes, thank you so very much.
Yeah, no problem.
These were all just really beautiful, Definitely learned some today, yeah.
Great. So I see Patrick asking what are the best months for backpacking. Summer is really nice because you're almost guaranteed good weather. I've gone like 30 days straight out there with blue skies, but the downside is that it gets super crowded. Summer is the most crowded time, and that's because of students being out of school. So I would suggest September, like late August, September, because kids have already gone back to school, which means families aren't traveling out here and backpacking. Then you'll have a much better time getting permits, and some of these areas will be a lot less crowded. Great, awesome, Alondra. You should definitely go explore more. There is a lot to see, and I covered like a fraction of the park. For my first slide, I didn't even like talk about the southwestern side of the park or the high north. Yeah, there's so much to see. Zach asked, how often is there rockfall in Yosemite? That's a great question. So that picture I showed was over 139 years, but I think our most recent rockfall, we've had rockfall in 2018 and 2019. Rockfall happens all the time, but the big ones don't happen nearly as often. But the 2018 one, I believe, was on El Capitan, that huge chunk that came off of El Cap. The park actually has a way of predicting rockfall. It's kind of crazy. If you're interested in that, you should look that up. The park has this whole like 3D where they can gauge the like structural integrity of the rock. It's pretty crazy.
So obviously, do they probably close off the areas that are going to be possible?
I would imagine so, yes. If they think rockfall is going to occur. I mean, it's like an earthquake. They can't predict it, but they just have guesses of where it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, so I have another question from Christina. Are you going to continue to do more virtual outings for other places as well? The answer is yes. We actually have a couple tours lined up. I'm going to take a break from these, and my colleague Jenna is going to take over at some point, and she's going to be leading a tour on Iceland and the, oh my gosh, I forget the name of the trail. It's Icelandic word, so it's kind of hard to pronounce. Lagavager. So Jenna has actually gone and backpacked the Lagavager Trail. So we're going to get a tour of that. I'm super excited. And then we also have a tour coming from Haley Kaufman, who's in this tour right now. And that one she is going to do on her hometown. She was born and raised in Hawaii. So we're getting a tour on her island, her home island, that I'm also super excited for. Okay, so the videos are posted on the Associated Students or AS YouTube page, and they take about a week to get up because AS puts closed captioning in. So I believe all of these videos will start with the title Adventure Outings. So if you just search Adventure Outings into YouTube, you should be able to see these. The first video I did, first tour, is already up. There's a link right there. Okay, another question. How can I get more involved with adventure outings? That is a great question. It's a little complicated right now because of COVID. Normally, every semester we have applications for assistant leaders. And so becoming an assistant leader is an internship, and you come into the program and you get to go on trips for free and learn technical skills and leadership skills as you progress and develop into a potential trip leader, where you used to get paid for those when we were running trips. But right now it's a little challenging. I don't know if Jenna, you want to mention anything else about how they can get more involved.
Yeah, Riley had a great highlight of what we would do in, at this point, what we call pre-COVID times. Yeah, we're stuck in a weird place, and we're hoping to get out as soon as we possibly can. And there's just a lot of uncertainty that we're facing, and therefore are not able to really go anywhere. So yeah, I wish I had some more ideas for you in terms of getting involved right now. We're trying to do the best we can in terms of offering virtual activities, and hopefully you can connect with some folks in terms of clubs. We don't have a climbing club on campus. We had one a few years ago. I don't see Sam in here, but he was involved with that.